There's a tree in Asante that has never lost a leaf. Not in Harmattan, not in drought, not even the year the sun refused to rain for 9 months straight. The elders say the tree is alive in a way no tree should be. They say it breathes, they say it watches, and they say that one night 32 years ago, it gave birth to a child. Her name was Amara, and everything she touched grew. The night Amara was born, the sky broke open like a wound. Lightning hit the baobab tree at the edge of the village, the one they called Niame's finger, the one that had stood for 400 years. And under that tree, a woman named Abena was dying. Abena was 31 years old, beautiful, quiet, a woman who had been told she could never carry a child. She had been barren for 6 years. 6 years of herbs, 6 years of prayers, 6 years of her mother-in-law's eyes cutting through her across the dinner table. And then, on the last night of the harvest season, Abena walked out of her house, went to the baobab tree, pressed her hands against its bark, and wept. She didn't ask God. She didn't ask the pastor. She asked the tree. "Give me a child," she whispered. "Take whatever you want. Just give me a child." 3 months later, Abena was pregnant. The village celebrated. Her husband, Kwame Asante, a proud, stubborn man, wept in private. He had been ready to take a second wife. He was ashamed of that, but he never said sorry. 9 months passed. The night Abena's water broke, a storm came from nowhere. No warning, no clouds before it, just darkness, then wind, then that lightning that split the sky above Niame's finger. The midwife, Mame Aku, tried to hold Abena's hand, but Abena kept looking at the window, kept looking toward the tree. "It's calling," Abena kept saying. "Can't you hear it? It's calling her home." Nobody understood what she meant until the baby came. The baby didn't cry. She opened her eyes wide, steady, ancient, and she looked at the window. And in that moment, the storm stopped. Just like that, silent. The whole village heard it. The sudden, terrible quiet. And Abena smiled once, just once, and then she was gone. She died with her eyes open, facing the baobab tree. Kwame held her daughter and didn't know whether to love her or blame her. He named her Amara, meaning grace. But the village had another name for her. They called her the curse. Amara grew up in a house without warmth. Her father, Kwame, provided for her. He fed her. He sent her to school. But he never touched her, never held her hand, never called her by her name unless he had to. He looked at her like she was a question he didn't want to answer. The only one who loved her, truly, fully, without condition, was her grandmother, Nana Essie. Nana Essie was 74 years old and built like a woman who had survived everything Africa could throw at a person. She had 13 children, buried 4 of them, watched her husband die young, and she was still standing. She was the one who braided Amara's hair, the one who told her stories, the one who fed her extra and pretended it was an accident. But even Nana Essie had a secret she kept from Amara. She kept it for 30 years. Because what Amara didn't know, what nobody had told her, was that Nana Essie had been there that night at the baobab. She had seen it. She had seen what really happened when Abena made her prayer. And some things, she believed, were not meant for a child to carry. Not yet. From the age of 4, strange things followed Amara. Wherever she walked in the compound, grass grew thick and green behind her feet, even in dry season. The mango tree in the yard, the one that hadn't borne fruit in 7 years, bloomed the week she turned 5. Birds landed on her shoulders like she was a branch. She could press her palm against sick ground, and within days, something would push up through the soil. The village children were afraid of her. They called her the witch girl. They threw stones when the adults went watching. There was one boy who never threw stones. His name was Kofi. Kofi Mensah was 8 years old when he first spoke to Amara. She was sitting alone under the baobab tree, the very tree she had been born near, eating a piece of yam. "Aren't you afraid of it, the tree?" he asked. She looked up at him, calm as still water. "No," she said, "it's afraid of me." He didn't know what to say, so he sat down next to her and ate his food too. And that was how their friendship began. Kofi was the only person besides Nana Esi who treated Amara like she was just a person, not a mystery, not a curse, not something to be studied or feared, just Amara. She was 12 when the first real incident happened. It was the driest year the village had seen in a generation. The cocoa crops were dying. The river had dropped so low you could see the rocks. People were angry, desperate. Chief Barima called a meeting of the elders. They argued for 3 hours about what to do. And then Amara, 12 years old, silent, unbothered, walked to the edge of the dying field, pressed both hands into the dry earth and closed her eyes. Nobody asked her to. Nobody told her to. She just knew. She stayed like that for 10 minutes. When she opened her eyes, 3 shoots of new green were pushing up through the cracked ground around her hands. The elders went silent. Her father, Kwame, turned away. He couldn't watch. But Nana Esi, standing at the back of the crowd, pressed her mouth to her hand because she knew what it meant, and she knew she couldn't keep the secret longer. The night before Amara's 30th birthday, Nana Esi called her to come sit by the fire. Amara came. She always came when Nana called. She was 30 now, a teacher in the village school, unmarried by choice, still quiet, still strange, still the woman that plants bent toward when she walked past. Kofi had married someone else 7 years earlier. It had broken something in her that she never named out loud. But she had survived it, the way she survived everything, by going to the tree, by pressing her hands to the earth, by listening to whatever it was that lived underneath the silence. "Sit down, Amara," said Nana Esi. Her voice was different that night, lower, heavier, like something long submerged finally rising. "There is something I should have told you a long time ago." Amara looked at her grandmother and felt the ground shift beneath her. "Your mother didn't just pray to the tree," Nana Esi began. "I was there that night, 32 years ago. I followed her because I was afraid for her. I hid in the bushes and I watched. The tree, Niame's finger, it glowed from the inside, like something living inside the wood was waking up. And your mother placed her hands on the bark, and she gave the tree her breath, her years. She knew what she was giving. She wasn't tricked. She chose." Amara's voice was a bare whisper. What did she give it? Her life, Nana Esi said. She gave her life in exchange for yours. The fire crackled. An owl called somewhere in the dark. Nana Esi continued, her voice trembling now. The tree didn't just help her conceive. The tree gave her a piece of itself, its spirit, its root. It planted it inside her womb, and she carried it for 9 months, and then she gave birth to you. Amara, you were not born from your father. You were not made the way children are made. You were grown. The word fell like a stone into deep water. Amara did not move. She did not breathe. She sat completely still, the way she always did when the earth was trying to tell her something. "You are the spirit of Nyami's finger," said Nanaisi, "born in flesh, sent here with a purpose." "What purpose?" Amara asked. The elders knew a drought was coming, a real drought, a killing drought, the kind that swallows villages. The tree knew it 400 years ago. It has been preparing. It has been waiting for you. Amara stared at the fire. Her whole life, the grass that grew behind her feet, the tree that bloomed for her birthday, the crops she revived with her hands, it wasn't strange. It wasn't a curse. It was a calling. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Amara's voice cracked for the first time. Nanaisi reached out and took both of her hands. "Because," she said softly, "I wanted you to have a childhood, not a destiny. I wanted you to eat yam and fall in love and argue with your father and be a girl first, before the world asked you to be something else." Amara looked at the old woman who had loved her when no one else would. And then, for the first time in 30 years, she cried. She cried like the child she had never been allowed to be, like the girl who ate alone under the baobab while other children laughed at her, like the woman who watched Kofi marry someone else and pretended she was fine. She cried it all out, right there by the fire. And Nanaisi held her and said nothing, because sometimes holding is enough. 3 weeks later, the sky went white. Not the bright white of clouds, the flat, dead white of heat, the kind of sky that has forgotten what rain is. The wells began to drop. The river stopped running. The animals disappeared. By the second month, people were fighting at the water points.
"You took more than your share yesterday. We have nothing left. The well is dry.
My children are thirsty. Give us the water."
Children were sick. Crops turned to powder. Chief Barima called for prayers. The pastor prayed. The fetish priest made offerings. Nothing. And then the baobab tree, Nyami's finger, began to die. For the first time in 400 years, its leaves fell. All of them, in one day. The whole village gathered around it in silence, looking at this impossible thing. An elder named Opayin Frempong fell to his knees. "It is the end," he wept. "If the tree dies, the village dies." And then Amara walked out of the crowd. She walked slowly, without looking at anyone. Her feet were bare on the cracked earth. Her father, Kwame, grabbed her arm as she passed. "Amara, what are you doing?" She stopped. She looked at him, and for the first time in her life, he didn't look away. "I'm going home," she said quietly. He let go. She walked to the tree. She pressed both of her hands against the dying bark. She closed her eyes, and then she pressed her forehead against it too. The village watched in silence. 1 minute, 2, 5, and then the ground trembled, just slightly, like a heartbeat, and then the roots, the great visible roots of Nyami's finger, thick as a man's body, they began to pulse. You could see it, a ripple moving outward through the earth, like a wave, like breath. People stumbled back. Children screamed. The elders dropped to their knees. Kofi, who had come with his wife and his children, stood completely still, watching Amara, watching the woman he had loved and been too afraid to say so. His wife looked at him, and she understood, in that moment, what his silence had always meant. The wave reached the edge of the village, and then the sky cracked open. Rain. Real rain. Cold, heavy, honest rain. The kind that smells like the beginning of things. It fell and fell and fell. When Amara finally lifted her hands from the back, she stumbled. Kofi was already running. He caught her before she fell. Her hair had gone white. Not grey, white. Completely. Like milk, like starlight, like the inside of a baobab. She looked up at him and smiled. That slow, old, ancient smile she had always had. The one that never fit a child's face. The one that finally made sense. I always knew, she whispered. I think I always knew. What did it take from you?
What did it take
He
from
asked. His voice was breaking. Years, she said simply. The same way my mother gave hers. How many? She didn't answer. Because she didn't know, and it didn't change anything. She had given what was needed. That was all. Her father, Kwame, pushed through the crowd. He had not run anywhere in 20 years. He fell to his knees in the mud in front of her. This proud, stubborn, broken man who had spent 30 years blaming her daughter for a death she had nothing to do with, fell to his knees in the mud. Amara, he said.
Amara.
Just her name, just that. But she heard everything in it. The apology that never came, the hands that never held her, the eyes that never stayed. She reached out and put her hand on his head. I know, Papa, I know, she said, and she forgave him. Not because he deserved it, but because carrying unforgiveness is its own kind of drought, and she had already given enough of herself to the earth today. Nana Esi stood at the edge of the crowd, watching her granddaughter, her strange, beautiful, impossible granddaughter, hold her broken son. The old woman's hands shook, but her chin was up. She was always chosen, Nana Esi said to no one. I always knew. The baobab behind Amara had burst back into full leaf. Green, lush, impossible, thick with life. And at its base, where the roots curled into the earth, a single flower had bloomed. White, perfect, out of season. The elders said it was the first time Nyami's finger had ever flowered in 400 years. You know what I've learned from Amara's story? Sometimes what a community calls a curse is actually a gift they don't know how to receive yet. Sometimes the child who grows up strange, the one who is too quiet, too different, too much for the world around them, is not broken. They are just early. Early for a purpose that hasn't arrived yet. And sometimes a mother's love is so fierce, so unreasonable, so beyond the limits of her own body that she plants it somewhere that will outlive her. So it can keep growing, so it can one day bloom. Amara never left the village. She taught school there until her hair grew past her shoulders, still white, always white. And every morning before the students arrived, she would walk to Nyami's finger, press her palm to its back for just a moment, listen, and in the silence between her heartbeat and the trees, she would hear her mother. Not in words, in the feeling of roots, deep, steady, unbreakable, there.